Hi everyone, this presentation is about knowing your rights when interacting with immigration and the police. My name is Kelly He. My contact information is on the screen, so if you have any questions about what is presented, feel free to send me an email. And I'm an immigration attorney with Ayuda. Ayuda is a nonprofit organization with offices in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. We advocate for low-income clients, immigrant clients, through direct social, legal, and language access services, trainings, and outreach. We envision a community where all immigrants succeed and thrive in the United States. I just wanted to note up front that this presentation should not be considered legal advice. I'll be giving you general information, but cannot advise you on how this information applies to you. Because each person's case is unique, it's best to contact a licensed immigration attorney or a BIA accredited representative before applying for any type of immigration relief. The agenda for this presentation will be first a discussion on who we talk about when we say immigration. Then I'll go over your legal rights when interacting with authorities, how to come up with a safety plan in the event that you are arrested. And finally, I'll briefly touch on options for obtaining legal status here in the US. So first, who is immigration? Immigration refers to the government agencies that are responsible for enforcing immigration laws. There are two departments that deal with immigration. First is the Department of Homeland Security, or DHS, on the left, and the Department of Justice, or DOJ, on the right. So first I'll talk about the Department of Homeland Security. Within DHS, there are three agencies with different roles. There's the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, or USCIS, which processes immigration applications. So for example, an affirmative asylum application, a family-based petition, a work authorization application, a green card, or a citizenship application. If you have an interview for any of those petitions, it would be with USCIS. Next is Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. ICE is in charge of running immigration detention centers and also conducts raids within the United States. So they're in charge of enforcing the immigration laws within the US. And then third is Customs and Border Protection, or CBP. They're in charge of enforcing the immigration laws on the border and at airports. So they'd be the ones checking passports at the airport, and they work at checkpoints and points of entry along the border. Over on the right is the Department of Justice, which operates the immigration courts. So if you ever have to appear for a master calendar hearing or an individual hearing, it will be with the Executive Office for Immigration Review in front of an immigration judge. And then if you want to appeal the decision of the immigration judge, you would do so before the Board of Immigration Appeals, or the BIA. So as you can see, there's many departments and agencies responsible for enforcing immigration laws, and they each have their own roles and functions. Of all of these agencies, ICE is the one that you may encounter at your workplace or in the community. They'll be wearing uniforms that say Police ICE on the back, like in the first photo. They'll be wearing a badge on the front of their uniforms, like the one in the second photo. And then the third photo is the logo for DHS, which ICE is a part of, and you may see officers wearing this logo as well. It's important to remember that ICE will never ask you for money, neither in person nor over the phone. So if you receive a call from a person claiming to be ICE and asking you for money to bail a friend or a relative out of detention, this is a scam. Additionally, if you come in contact with an ICE officer, you have the right to ask them for their name and identification, and I would recommend doing this right away. Regardless of your immigration status, so whether you're a citizen, a lawful permanent resident, you have an application pending or in progress, or you have no status and are undocumented, you have certain rights when interacting with ICE and with the police. So first, you have the right to remain silent. If you wish to remain silent, simply state that you wish to do so. You do not have to sign any documents or answer any questions until you're able to consult with an attorney. And it's important to remember to never give officers a false or fake name or identification, as this could cause ineligibility issues for you if you do apply for lawful immigration status. If ICE or the police knock on your door, you do not have to answer the door unless they have a valid warrant or a valid court order. If they do not have one, you can ask them to leave. If you do open the door, the officers will likely interpret that as you are giving them permission to enter, in which case they may enter your home. You can also ask them to show their identification, and you still have the right to remain silent and not answer any questions. And you do not have to tell them who is inside the house. If the officers claim that they do have a court order to enter your home, ask to see it before letting them in. Ask the officers to slide the warrant under the door or put it up to your window. Remember, don't open the door. Read the warrant carefully. Each warrant must contain certain information in order to be valid. So that includes, it needs to have a judge's signature, a translation in your language, the name of the person they're looking for, or information about the places that they'll search. If they have an arrest warrant, they may not search the house unless they see something in plain sight that would give them cause to search the rest of the house. If the warrant does not have the information that's required, it's not valid. And this means that they do not have the authority to enter your home, and you should ask them to leave. If the officers do enter without your permission, it's important to continue to say that you do not give them permission to enter your house. There is an exception that if the police are investigating an ongoing crime, they can search anyone that they have reason to believe is involved in that crime. If you are stopped by ICE or the police outside or in public, first of all, don't run away. You first want to find out whether they are arresting you or not. So if you are being arrested, then you would not be free to leave that encounter. And if you are not being arrested, you are free to leave. So you can simply ask the officer, am I free to leave? If they say yes, then you're not under arrest and you may walk away slowly. If they say no, you can't leave, then you would be under arrest, and in that case, you would not be able to leave. But either way, you do have the right to remain silent and not answer any questions. In some states, you are required to give your name if the officer asks what's your name, but you're not required to do this in Maryland, DC, or Virginia. If you're not arrested, / the officer says you are free to leave, then the officer should not search you. If he or she does start to search you, state out loud that you do not consent to the search, but don't resist it. Resisting an officer in any way could result in you being charged with the offense of resisting. Now, if you're at an airport or near a US border, you can be questioned or detained without a warrant, but you still do have the right to remain silent. So wherever you are, do not provide any information about your immigration status, where you were born, and when and how you came to the United States. If ICE or the police come to your workplace, then you have the same rights that we've just talked about. So the police and ICE need a valid court order to enter, or they need permission from the employer. If they do enter your place of work, remember, again, don't run. You have the right to remain silent and not answer any questions. Your employer should ask for identification of the officers and to see a valid warrant. If you are pulled over by the police in your car, then different laws apply in that scenario. So if you do see the police following you in your car with their lights flashing, then pull over to a safe place and turn the car off. Put your hands on the steering wheel where the officer can see them and follow the officer's instructions. The officer will probably ask you to provide your driver's license, your registration, and your proof of insurance. It's really important to remember to not lie and to not show any false documents. Even if you don't have the valid documents, simply say that you don't have them, but don't show any false documents. And if the officer asks if he or she can search your car, unless you're at a border or a checkpoint, you can say, no, I do not consent to this search. Other than providing, like I said, the license, the registration, and proof of insurance, you do not have to provide any other information, and you can state that you wish to remain silent. The same rights and rules apply when you are in the house or a car of another person. So again, don't run, as this could lead to you getting arrested. Do not open the door. You, again, have the right to remain silent, and you do not have to answer any questions. If you do end up getting arrested, you still have certain rights while you are in custody or in jail. So again, you have the right to remain silent. You have the right to make a phone call and to have an attorney. If you've been arrested for a crime, you have the right to have an attorney provided to you. Don't discuss your immigration information with anyone other than your attorney. You have the right to refuse to sign any document before speaking to your attorney. Arrests, charges, and convictions can make it much harder to get lawful immigration status or could cause you to lose your immigration status. In some cases, the police may contact ICE, and ICE will come to pick you up and could put you in deportation proceedings. So overall, it's just very important to avoid becoming in police custody and getting arrested. If ICE comes to pick you up and you are then transferred to an immigration detention center, you also have certain rights. You have the right to make a phone call, to call your consulate, the right to remain silent, and the right to speak to an attorney, to refuse to sign any document until you have spoken with your attorney, and to be provided with a copy of every document in your case. Again, do not discuss your immigration information with anyone other than your attorney. You should also request to be released on bond. Only a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident can post bond for you. If you are told that you do not qualify, you can request a bond hearing with an immigration judge. You can do this at a hearing or make a request in writing to the immigration judge. Your written request should include your name, your alien registration number or your A number, if you have one, and a request for a bond redetermination hearing as soon as possible. Also, if you don't have lawful immigration status, remember that it is risky to go and visit a friend or a relative in an immigration detention center. If you are detained, then they will take your fingerprints, they will take a photo of you, they will take your personal property, anything that you had on you at the time of the arrest, and they will try to question you. And again, you do not have to answer any questions until you have an attorney. They will also give you copies of any charging documents, and they will transfer you to an immigration detention center. If a friend or family member has been detained by ICE, you can find out in which detention facility they've been detained by using the online Detention Locator. You can go to the website that is on this slide and search for your friend or relative by typing in their A number. Or if you don't know their A number, you can type their full name, their country of birth, and date of birth, and it will show you where they're located. It's important to always have a safety plan in the event that you are detained. So this includes making copies of all of your important documents and keeping them in a safe place. At least one person should know where they are in case you need them. It's also a good idea to have a friend or a family member who has agreed to watch your children and or pets if you do become detained. So it's a good idea to have this person's phone number memorized so you can call them from the detention facility. And finally, it's a good idea to always keep a dose of any prescription medications that you may need in case you end up being detained. It's also a good idea to have a plan for who will take care of your children if you are detained long-term or end up being deported. So you can sign what is called a power of attorney, which would designate someone who you trust to be the guardians over your children and make decisions for them if you are unable to do so. You can also designate a person who has access to your bank account and your financial information just in case you need them to send you money or to use it to pay your rent or take care of your children. Usually, once you are detained, you will have the chance to go before an immigration judge and present your case. However, if you are undocumented and you have arrived to the US in the past 2 years, you will likely be put into what's called expedited removal proceedings, which means that you can be deported without a hearing before a judge. So if you do have legal status, then keep proof of it with you, and you can show that to the immigration officer so that they don't put you into expedited removal proceedings. It's also a good idea to keep proof that you have been living in the US for more than 2 years, if that's the case. So copies of a lease or any bills that show the date. And then finally, if you are afraid of returning to your home country, then tell the officer right away. In that case, you'll be given an interview and they will determine whether you have a credible fear of returning to your home country. And if they find that your fear is credible, then you will get a chance to present your case before an immigration judge. If you have already been ordered removed in the past from the US and then you get detained, that order of removal will be reinstated. And in that case, you will also be deported without a hearing. But if you are afraid of returning to your home country, then tell the officer right away. In that case, you'll be given an interview, and if your fear is found credible, then you will be given a hearing before an immigration judge. Now I'll briefly go over the most common types of immigration relief, but as I said at the beginning, it is best to contact an immigration attorney or a BIA accredited representative for a full consultation to determine your eligibility. If you have a US citizen or a lawful permanent resident family member, you may be eligible for them to petition for you in what's called a family petition. You may also be eligible to gain lawful status through your employer. If you are under the age of 21 and have been abused, abandoned, or neglected by one or both parents, you may be eligible for special immigrant juvenile status. If you have been the victim of a crime, including domestic violence, in the United States and have reported it to the police or a judge, say for a protective order, then you may be eligible for a U visa. If you have been the victim of human trafficking or sex trafficking, you may be eligible for a T visa. If you are the victim of domestic violence by a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident, you may be eligible for VAWA. If you fear returning to your home country, you may be eligible for asylum. You may also be eligible to extend your TPS or renew your DACA if you already have had those statuses. You can check out these links for more information on the topics that were presented. And like I said at the beginning, feel free to email me with any questions about this presentation, although I will not be able to give you legal advice regarding your specific situation. I hope that you enjoyed the presentation and that you stay safe and healthy. Thank you.